The United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear oral argument on Donald Trump's assertion of absolute presidential immunity in the Washington, D.C. federal criminal case involving Donald Trump's attempt to overthrow the results of the 2020 election. The United States Supreme Court has set oral argument for April 22nd, 2024, and has set a briefing schedule related to that oral argument date of April 22nd, 2024. You will recall that federal judge Tanya Chutkan denied Donald Trump's motion to dismiss the indictment where Trump asserted absolute presidential immunity. Donald Trump then appealed to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals in a very powerful 50-plus page order. The D.C. Circuit affirmed federal judge Tanya Chutkan's order denying Donald Trump's motion to dismiss the indictment. The D.C. Circuit found that Donald Trump is not entitled to absolute presidential immunity by looking at the text, structure, and history of the United States Constitution. They gave Donald Trump the opportunity to file a petition for a stay or an application for a stay with the United States Supreme Court by February 12th in order to stay the mandate, which means that if the mandate were to issue, the Washington, D.C. federal criminal case would start again. Donald Trump then filed an application for a stay. Special counsel Jack Smith filed an opposition saying there should not be a stay. But United States Supreme Court, if you are inclined to grant this stay, convert Donald Trump's application for a stay into a petition for certiorari and set oral argument. In other words, let's not have to go back and brief this issue about whether or not there should be certiorari, which just means oral argument on the issue of absolute presidential immunity. Set a date. Special counsel Jack Smith wanted that date set in March. The Supreme Court sat for weeks on Donald Trump's application for a stay, even though special counsel Jack Smith responded within 48 hours. And after weeks of doing nothing, the United States Supreme Court has granted certiorari. That doesn't mean that they've accepted Donald Trump's claim of absolute presidential immunity. All this means is that they are agreeing to hear oral argument on the issue on an expedited basis for them. It's not an expedited basis for me and I think we the people, but they've set that date now for April 22nd, 2024. Let's go through this order by the United States Supreme Court and then let's break down its import and implication. Here it is. Donald J. Trump v. United States, case number 23-939. The application for a stay presented to the Chief Justice is referred by him to the court. The special counsel's request to treat the stay application as a petition for a writ of certiorari is granted, and that petition is granted limited to the following question: whether and if so, to what extent does a former president enjoy presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office? Without expressing a view on the merits, this court directs the Court of Appeals to continue withholding the issuance of the mandate until the sending down of the judgment of this court. The application for a stay is dismissed as moot. Pause there. What that just means is that when the mandate does not get sent down to the Washington, D.C. federal court, that means that the proceedings remained stayed. They remain paused until the United States Supreme Court ultimately will issue a ruling on that question, which is whether and if so, to what extent does a former president enjoy presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office. It goes on to say, the case will be set for oral argument during the week of April 22nd, 2024. Petitioner's brief on the merits and any amicus curiae briefs in support or in support of neither party are to be filed on or before Tuesday, March 19, 2024. Respondents' brief on the merits and any amicus curiae briefs in support are to be filed on or before Monday, April 8, 2024. The reply brief, if any, is to be filed on or before 5 p.m., Monday, April 15th, 2024. Now, let me say this about the import of this ruling. In my opinion, this is the worst case scenario, other than if the Supreme Court, of course, granted Donald Trump absolute presidential immunity. That's my view of it from the perspective of, will this case go to trial in 2024? I think it is very difficult, if not impossible now, based on the Supreme Court waiting weeks before issuing any response to the application for a stay. So more time passed then, and then not setting this for oral argument in March by setting it for the week of April 22nd. What that means is that, just look at the 14th Amendment Section 3 case where oral argument happened several weeks ago. We do not have an opinion by the United States Supreme Court yet as of this recording, and that oral argument was weeks ago at this point. So if you figure you hold oral argument the week of April 22nd, 2024, they don't issue a ruling, say for 30 days or maybe even more, but just say 30 days. That brings you to mid-May, say June, for a mandate then to issue back to the Washington, D.C. court. Say the Supreme Court rejects Donald Trump's claim of absolute presidential immunity, which I still think they will ultimately do. What that then means is that the case before Washington, D.C. federal criminal judge Tanya Chutkan does not resume until June. So then you take the time the stay was in place from December to January, from January to February, from February to March to April, April to May, May to June. So that's a 6-month delay. If the proceedings were to start on June, just count it: July, August, September, October, November. November's 5 months out. The earliest date that I would foresee a trial would be set is sometime in December or sometime early November 2025, if you just use the counting that I just went through there. And so ultimately here, I think we'll get a ruling by the Supreme Court on the issue of absolute presidential immunity this year, but they've effectively prevented, I think, this case. They've boxed it out, and I think quite intentionally, from this case from going to trial in 2024. And look, I guess what are the expectations from the United States Supreme Court, which has taken away women's reproductive rights, which has taken away the distinctions between church and state, which allow people to basically walk around and carry weapons of war, essentially, anywhere without limitation. I mean, we've seen some dastardly rulings by this Supreme Court. So should it come as a surprise that this Supreme Court would have such a horrible ruling in this way? And look, I could see commentators saying, look, they're expediting it. It's not horrible. They haven't made a ruling yet. They haven't granted Donald Trump absolute presidential immunity. But I think they've effectively stopped the trial from happening when it could have. And they could have just let the trial conclude, and then they could have made their ultimate ruling after trial concluded. Then Donald Trump could appeal after a jury would have decided this in May or June. It is a day where there was, a lot of pro-justice news, right? You have Donald Trump being rejected from the appellate division, from trying to not post a bond. Trump had to file documents showing that he is not as wealthy as he claimed. He's not as liquid as he claimed, and begging the appellate division so that he didn't have to post a full bond in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case. So there was, that happened today. You had Judge, and Donald Trump's going to have to post a bond. You have Judge Eileen Cannon ruling against Donald Trump and his lawyers' request to look at SEPA Section 4 submissions. So you had good news there. And then you had this ruling by the United States Supreme Court which I think effectively prevents and stops this case from, the Washington, D.C. case from going in 2024, if you just do the math that I just did for you. Want to update you. Those are the facts. That's what's up. We will keep you posted as we learn more. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 3 million subscribers thanks to your support. Have a wonderful day.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.